to give the welcome address.
Good morning, Anandal. We welcome all the participants for today's Corporate Connect, an industry institution interaction initiative. Personal branding isn't just for someone who owns a business. Personal branding is also essential for any person who wants to share their story with the world. If you want to create an impact in the world, creating a brand strategy is the place to begin. To know more about personal branding, we have with us today Mr. Sunil Robert, author and leadership coach, head of marketing, products and platforms, Tata Consultancy Services, California. We welcome you, sir. I also welcome our beloved director, Dr. AJV Narayanan, Chief Executive Captain Sendil Kumar, faculty members, students, and participants from other institutions. Now I request my friend Shanmuga Priya to introduce the speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Sunil Robert is a global executive with a career spanning 25 years across India, Europe, and North America, having worked in reputed companies like Eureka Forbes, AZ, Oracle, and Tata Consultancy Services. He started his career in the late 80s in engineering sales and moved to advertising and finally settled in corporate communications and has won global accolades for his ability to build brands. He is an award winning marketing communicator. His mission is to change the world through his communication skills. In addition to being a writer, he is also a motivational speaker and a leadership coach. His debut work, A Rags to Riches, semi-autobiographical story I Will Survive, is endorsed by global leaders like Ratan Tata and Joseph Kennedy. He was recently selected by iCongo for his Rex Karmaveer Global Fellowship Award for his effort to inspire India's youth. He flirted with radio, television, and also wrote for some newspapers. Currently, he's a head of analyst and public relations in marketing department of Financial Solution Division at Tata Consultancy Services. He received the International Steve Award for the Best Corporate Communicator in the year 2006. He was a runner-up in PR Manager of the Year in 2006. He lives by the mantra, a candle shines brighter when it lights up the other candle. Welcome you, sir. I request you to take over the session.
Thank you very much. Would you help me share this?
Yes, you got the access, sir.
Okay, thank you. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen?
Perfect, sir.
All right. Good evening from New Jersey, very close to New York City. It is my privilege to join all the young ones this evening. Dr. AGV, thank you so much for letting me come, and Dr. Nandanam, we really appreciate your. So I'll tell you how this invitation came about. A few days ago, I was connecting with on LinkedIn, and Professor Nandan, we connected first, and we just exchanged a couple of ideas, and then he introduced us to Dr. AGV, and then behold. So this is a great example of when individuals connect and then reality gets changed, events come together. And in that little example, I want to tell you how I've lived all my life in the past 25 years in the corporate world as to how ideas, people, and events came together to make me what I am today, and how this will actually make a difference to you. So the promise for you today is I'll speak for 15, 20 minutes about some branding, share a few personal stories, and then let's interact together. So I want you to know that I'll bring my best game, right? In a couple of hours or a few minutes, there's a cricket match that is starting in M.A. Chidambaram Stadium. Both the teams are going to bring their best game. And so today I want to see if you brought your best game to this webinar. And how will I know that? I want you to start typing if you have any questions, either in the chat box or send them to one of your teachers, or you should ask me a lot of questions. The more questions you have, the more I'll consider it that I was able to connect with you. And so this brand, why is it a brand? Why should you think of yourself as a brand? And what will happen if you don't? So Tom Peters, one of my greatest favorite writers, who wrote very popular books like In Search of Excellence and so on, said, you don't move up if you don't stand out. So if you want to move up in your professional career, as soon as you finish your MBA, as soon as you placed campus placement or individual on your own effort, you get into something, right from the word go, if you don't stand out, you'll not move up. It's a given. Why? Because you're in a competitive setting, and any competitive setting, unless you really make a name for yourself, you'll not be able to move ahead. And I'll give you specific examples as to why, if you don't stand out and if you stay in your own comfort zone, you'll not grow. And the opposite of growth is decay. The opposite of growth is stagnation. The opposite of growth is virtually frustration. The opposite of growth is, you can think of all the negative outcomes, right? If you're growing, then there is a sense of exhilaration. If you are pushing yourself, if you're pushing everybody around you, then growth happens. Growth, John Maxwell, the famous writer, says, growth happens at the edge of discomfort, which means you go out of your comfort zone, and where discomfort begins, you start growing. So I'll give you some practical inputs as well. The word unique is a play there. I want you to spell unique from now on very differently. You are unique, meaning that there are no two people in this world who are exactly like you. Although Indian culture says that there are 7 people who look alike like that. I'd like to believe I'm the most good-looking Sunil in the world. I don't like to think that there are 6 other who are identical like me, even if I lost my hair, even if it doesn't matter. But the fact that I have a unique personality is something that I should take pride in no matter what. I'll give you an example. When I was growing up as a teenager, people used to call me Kalia. Kalia in a Hindi, it means that you are a dark-skinned fellow. And as a teenager, it breaks my self-esteem. It hurts my feelings. Why are people picking on something that I don't have any control on? It's a color that I was born into a family. And of course, among all my 4 siblings, I was the darkest. My sisters were average. My brother was also okay, but I was dark. So people, when they make fun of a skin complexion, which has nothing to do with my outer personality, I went into a shell. I developed a lot of inferiority complex. But only after I overcame that this is the complexion God gave me, that there's nothing I can do. I rejected all the negative scripts that happened to me and built a strong personality and developed my uniqueness. I was able to feel more confident and keep racing ahead. So I don't know how you see yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror. Do you see yourself as a mistake, or do you see yourself as a masterpiece? I, with all my hair gone, also think I'm a masterpiece. Why? Because that's the way I have trained my mind, that God did not make me a mistake. Even though a lot of people poked fun at me and put me down, I rejected all those negative scripts and went on to become what I eventually became. You are unique. That's the number one thing you should take away, saying that there won't be anybody who's like me. There won't be anybody who has a signature style like me. There won't be anybody who will problem solve like me. There won't be anybody who will do anything like me. There will be many others who will do things the way they want to. But the way you approach uniqueness is something that I want to drive home today. So what is branding? It's simply making a mark. Right from our childhood, it happens. Right from our young days, we see that in a group of few kids, you will see one person standing out. Why? Because that kid has something unique that they are bringing in, and they tend to stand out. So whether it is in your career, whether it is at home, whether it is in the community you're living, in the apartment complex you're living, wherever you're living, if you're able to express and communicate your skills, personality, and values, you are a brand. You are building if you are able to express, communicate, and make a difference. If you are in your own little bubble, you're in a bubble. But if you break through the bubble and express yourself, then you are developing a personal brand. And I'll give you a few more examples. So the definition is, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? Right? About me, I'd like people to say, he's a very intuitive problem solver about me. That's what I'd like to hear. My boss has consistently told me that I'm a very humble leader. In this year's appraisal, of course, it's not yet final, my boss said, my character is like Hanuman in Ramayana. Hanuman is a servant leader, right? He said, my style represents that. And it gives me tremendous sense when my boss says it, because you can't play around with your boss. They're watching every email you write. They're watching every project you're working on. So the bosses have a better view of you. And if he says that this is Sunil's, what he stands for, then I take that as a compliment, right? So what do people say when you're not in the room is your reputation, right? And sometimes your reputation is built in your absence. Your reputation travels to places in your absence. Your reputation will either set you up for failure or set you up for success. So I'll give you practical steps on how to build your reputation. Benefits are, right from interview stages, you'll be able to stand out in the interview. For placements, you'll get picked. Once you are in the workplace, you'll get promotions. People would love to partner with you, and it'll lead to speaking engagements. Today's is a great example, right? How a chance encounter with Dr. Nandan, it set us up with this conversation where I'm able to speak some experience into your lives, right? So speaking engagements will come as a result of your brand. What are the benefits? I'll not go into all this, but trust and consistency. People will know that given a certain set of circumstances, I, as Sunil Robert, will behave in a particular way. You can take it to the bank that I will do my best. That even when nobody's watching, I'll keep fighting the good fight. Even when nobody's watching, you can trust me. If he says it can be done, it will be done. If he says it can't be done, it can't be done. My word is my bond, and my bond is my word, right? So integrity builds and trust and consistency. And it'll set you up for networking. But today, for example, I'm meeting 50, 60 of you in this webinar. 5 or 6 of you have already sent out LinkedIn connections. I will never be immensely following your career. And who knows, someday we might even actually meet in person when the travel restores, or when any of you guys get into jobs and come travel to the United States. The opportunities are endless, right? The possibilities are endless. Opportunities find you, and then it'll allow you to make great decisions. Branding allows you to command a premium. You can choose which job you can want, which direction you want to go. All right. So a lot of other benefits. I'll share this presentation with you. But from a business standpoint, people have a higher. I just want to focus on the bullet number 8, which is higher perceived value. Teams will fight over you if you are having a brand. Just before the lockdown, I changed from one role to another. And when I went in, people are fighting over me to say, when Sunil comes back from that role, we want to hire him. We want him to give us some time. And that's what happens when you build a brand for yourself, right? But how do you do that? I'll get there. I'll share some of my personal stories. It gives you competitive advantage. You can beat others. Nobody can compete with you because you're following a new path for your own, okay? So here are some whys. Right from your early days, right from in MBA days, you should start framing yourself as a thought leader. Bullet number 1 in this orange color. Even the times when I was doing my MBA, I'll actually tell you a very touching story. I always wanted to become a journalist. For me, communications and journalism was my passion. In the university that I studied in Hyderabad, out of the 5 gold medals, I got 4 of them because I love that subject. Writing, editing, writing stories, unearthing stories, interviewing people, understanding advertising, marketing. This was really right in my. So I topped the university. What happened was, as young people, you fall into love affairs, and I fell in love with a young lady. And that young lady said, see, it'll be nice if you do MBA because my brother did MBA. And if you just do journalism, it's a good thing. But now all my career plans changed because of the girl I fell in love with. And, in India, right, for love, you do anything. So I changed my career plans and I went into MBA. And of course, I ended up marrying the young lady. We are now married for 20 years. Great love story. But she was the reason who changed my career trajectory by setting higher expectations for me. Because I was avoiding, because, if you have to crack the MBA entrance, you have to be reasonably good at quantity and I didn't like quants, and I didn't want to get into do financial accounting. I didn't want to do management accounting. All that I didn't want to do, but you do things for love, right? So even during those days, because I had a journalism and advertising background, within the marketing field, I developed myself as a thought leader. I used to win all these inter-college MBA competitions. I used to write for the local newspapers around on themes of marketing. Pretty soon, on marketing, advertising, communications, and media, I was seen as a thought leader, and opportunities opened up. There was a big competition for 600 people, and of which 5 were selected to go to Italy for a 3-month Rotary International Fellowship. And because I was seen as a thought leader and my writing skills were excellent, it led me to an opportunity to go to Italy. My first ever time I boarded a plane was shortly after my MBA in journalism. I went on a free scholarship, 3 months, traveled through Italy and Europe and UK, and came back with great exposure. So branding game starts very early and very young. Right from your college days, you should start thinking, how can I be seen as a thought leader in my field? How do I outpace the competition? How do you outmaneuver? Just like in cricket, just like in chess, how do you position yourself as somebody where you become an invincible and you can't beat anybody? Nobody can beat you, but you can beat anyone. So you get into a position of strength. I'll come to the strengths in a little while. The third and fourth important part is, how do you build a social media presence? I can spend the entire next 30 minutes on that, but I'll give you a few tips on how I do it. You can take and see if you can apply it, right? So it'll allow you to become a thought leader. It'll help you being great at finding great opportunities, develop a solid media presence. And looking and dressing the part as well is something that I'll touch upon towards the end. Here's how you can build a story. You start with identifying your strengths and weaknesses. You weaken your weaknesses. You find your core values, and then you build a brand vision. You define your purpose. You define your. I'll leave the slides with you, but I'll tell you one thing. My career started in sales, and within 2-3 years of selling, I realized that sales career allows you to make a lot of money, but it's also high pressure. You have targets, you have quota, you have to every week, month, you'll be chasing targets, and and unless your strength or your DNA is cut out for sales, you'll not enjoy. So this step number 1 of identifying your strengths and talents is very important. And I'll stick to that identify your strength and talents theme throughout the next few minutes, and then I'll get into Q&A, okay? What do I mean by that? Talent is a natural way of thinking, feeling, or behaving. And the amount of time you invest on it, spend practicing, developing your skills, and building your knowledge base is investment. And that becomes your strength. Right from my younger days, I enjoyed communication. I used to represent my school in debates and public speaking. I knew that if I ever make a career, it'll be in the area of communication arts, like language, writing, editing, that kind of a skills. So I was focused in the communications area. But nobody gives you a job right away after this thing. So you have to find ways of building yourself. So my sales career was a very paying career, but an unfulfilling career. I used to be very frustrated. The sales bosses, the sales managers, and the vice president sales, all those guys, they are ruthless people. They just destroy you. They trample and dance over your ego. I used to have the most demotivating sales meetings when they say, what is this? Your target was this, you are at this. And then it just used to leave me deflated. I used to walk out of the room. But I was only in sales because I did not have a bachelor's degree at that time, and I was supporting my family. We were broke, we were poor. And if I didn't support my family, we would be on the streets. So somehow I used to persist in that job. But for 3-4 years, I struggled. And once I got enough confidence, I quickly moved to my talent natural area, which is, again, like I said, communication and so on. Once I came into advertising, once I came into client services in the advertising area, my sales experience, which I already spent some time, allowed me to fly to the next level. My natural talents and the time I spent learning really helped me. Let me give you an example on what it means when talent and investment come together, magical strength comes. You know, we see these movies and superheroes, right? Every superhero has a superpower. Our strengths are like those superpowers, but on their own, they don't mean anything until you use them. So, for example, I loved English, but because I did not go to a fancy English school or a convent school or you know how these big city boys and girls go, I did not go to those schools, right? So I used to be always looked down upon. So if you're poor, your clothes are not very fancy. If you're poor, your language is not very fancy. And I was dark. I was picked on my complexion. So a lot of negatives already, like they show in the movies, right? In the first part of that, the hero is always bullied. The hero is broke. My story was exactly like that. But as soon as I found that my language skills are my strengths, I started investing in them. What do I mean by investing? I went to a debating club in Hyderabad. Now, that debating club, if I give you a metaphor or a poetic image, imagine a forest with a lot of lions and tigers, and you're the only one who's walking into it. So that debate club was like that. Okay, just picturize that. Why? Because the best students, the most intellectual students of Hyderabad, the fancy colleges, the highly rich and affluent families would send those children, and those members of those children's, the families of those city creams of the city, those kids used to come to this debating club. And into that, I went. And my personality I described to you: thin, dark, underconfident, did not know how I'll fit in into that group. Week after week, they would just tear me into pieces. The way I spoke, the content of what I spoke, and I was just trying. Just give me 1 second, okay? I'll just pause for 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So week after week, I would go, get humiliated, beaten up, and come. For example, I did not know the difference between the words, English words, how to pronounce them. So for the word chaos, C-H-A-O-S, chaos, nobody told me how to pronounce it. So I would end up using the word as chaos, right? That's the way it's written. That's the way you pronounce. I did not know the difference between words like exotic and erotic. So I ended up using them interchangeably. Exotic, where I meant exotic, I used to say erotic, and they used to laugh at me. My grammar was not good. They used to make fun of my sentence construction. But for 3-4 years, I struggled to just keep on going, keep on going. Then finally, one day they just made me a member in that group because they saw that here was this young guy who kept coming despite punishment given every week. And that, because I trained at that most competitive, ruthless level, this finally felt, okay, now he's a part of us. He's able to make decent speeches week after week. And my communication skills, without my knowledge, had just gone suddenly to the top. And in 2007, I won what is called the world's best corporate communicator award in the world, the first Indian to ever get that award. You can look it up on my website. So from somebody who could not speak English to somebody who went to the top of the world's communicators profession, it wouldn't have happened if I did not pursue my talent, if I did not invest myself, if I did not develop, if I did not practice. I did not have money to buy English books. So you know what I used to do? If in sales and wherever I worked, if people discarded their visiting cards, right, business cards, if somebody moved from sales engineer, they moved to become senior sales engineer, would discard all the printed cards, right? So I used to take those printed used cards, and behind them, I used to write the words that I used to study. Words meaning, the antonym, synonym, what does it mean? How does, so like that, I developed word cards that I used to constantly keep studying. That's how I invested in myself. And then much later, as opportunities came, I went and did programs on the radio. I went and did programs on Doordarshan, which is a state channel. By then, all these channels didn't come yet. But that's how I pursued my talent. And finally, because I invested my talent and practiced, it became a strength, consistently provide near perfect performance. Today, I made a career. I wrote 2 books. My first book, I Will Survive, became a bestseller. And one of India's biggest leaders, Ratan Tata, endorsed my story. I mean, after Ratan Tata gives you a personal recommendation, what else do you need, right, in India? But I'm not content there. I want to do whatever I can in inspiring young people like you who are in the business schools, who are in tier 2 cities. So that's how, a simple formula. Find out what you're good at, invest your time, make it a strength, it becomes a superpower. I'll give you some more examples, but I'll quickly come towards the final and conclusive part where we'll do some more Q&A. Okay, so your personality, your profession, and your passions have to align. Only then you'll be a personal brand. For example, if you hate Excel, you should not get into accounting or anything, because accounting is all about Excel, your ability to manipulate numbers, tell stories using numbers, loving data, building data models, so on and so forth. If you are a person who enjoys meeting people, you should not get into a data or a numbers sort of a profession, even if it pays you. In sales, I used to make more money than subsequently in advertising. I had to take a big cut, go back to the ground zero, and get on the elevator again in my advertising profession, because I started all over again. But it wasn't about money or the money that I would make, right? So for me, it was about what can I do for the rest of my life. So I had to let go of money initially to join advertising, where my passions, my personality blended well. So that's how you find your strength. What would you do if nobody even paid you any money? I can tell you that in my profession, which is marketing and communications and writing, even if nobody paid me, I would do that, because that's what gave me a tremendous amount of energy and satisfaction and fulfillment, because I was doing what talents and gifts God gave me, right? So that's the trick to. So finally, I want to just tell you, even if 2 best friends are studying in the same college, you will have to stand away from your friend and make a difference. What are you good? You have to do an introspection to find out what you are. It's self-discovery, the right bottom, right? And then what your competitor struggles with, what other graduates don't have, what does your friend not have? Even if your best friend is there, you are there, you might be best friends, but his strengths or her strengths will be different than what your strengths are. What do they struggle with? And what do people want most? What does the industry want? Where are the jobs? What can you do where you can go? So I can tell you many examples that I wanted to do something else, but there wasn't any opportunity. For example, I did sports commentary in India. That's why I keep referring to cricket, because cricket is in my blood, like many of you. We all love our cricket. In fact, just the other day, my company invited Ravichandran Ashwin and Cheteshwar Pujara for a face-to-face webinar where they talk to our employees. So I love cricket, but at that time, there wasn't enough opportunity. Only Harsha Bogle was the best commentator that my city has produced. He was a few years senior to me in the radio. And even today, I feel if I did not leave India and come, I would have done something relating to sports, relating to writing. Even now, I have a heart for sports. So if anything opens up in the US relating to cricket or sports, I'd certainly be pursuing it. But the point is, where is the meeting of all those 3 right in the center, which is the sweet spot? That if you do the Venn diagrams, you'll know that the union of all these 3 is where the sweet spot is. So what are your strengths, what others don't have, and what is the marketplace rewarding, right? If you want to be known for everything, you'll be known for nothing. Some people have a difficult time finding what their strengths are. For me, it was as clear as chalk and cheese. It was as clear as the sun that where my strengths are, I just decided to follow. I made some mistakes. There were some awkward moments, but then I'm so glad I took those risks and got in here. So today I want to ask you, I hope you guys are already typing questions and sort of getting ready for the questions and that, but I will just come to a conclusion with this slide, and I'll want to certainly interact with you. How do you do a personal branding exercise? By the time this event is over, this weekend, I want you to just sit and reflect on how do I make a branding strategy for myself? You should know your strengths, you should know what you do and how do you achieve it, and also know your medium, which is all about your social media presence and building your visibility while you're still in college. And the second part is, how do you construct your identifiers, claim your territories, cultivate your relationships, and conserve your brand? I'll give you an example. Let's say one of you guys decides to become a marketing guru, okay? Or some of you decide to become an expert on market research, or an expert in finance, or any of the fields, or an expert in human resources, if any of you are pursuing HR, right? Know your strengths, define your objective, and if your target is, how can I attract the attention of recruiters in the next 6 to 9 months, right? That's your target. Know your medium. Your medium will be either LinkedIn or the local newspaper or industry events in your city, nearby city, and so on. Know your medium. If you do not go to events regularly, if you don't stand up and ask questions, then you're losing out an opportunity. For example, if there are 50 people here and 3 people only ask a lot of questions, the speaker will only remember the 3 people who ask questions, right? So everybody has to take an opportunity to raise their hand and be interactive and get, and it tells the speaker that you are willing to engage with me. It tells me that you heard me and you want to respond with either a counterpoint or a clarifier, or just seek additional information. It makes me understand that you understood me, right? So you have to understand, go to events, go to places where all these leaders meet, where you can connect with people. This I used to do right from my young days. And that's how I landed that Rotary scholarship. That's how I landed all my jobs, through a network, right? And then part B is identify what is your biggest strength. That's your identifier. Sunil Robert should be known as the best public speaker and the best writer that my city has ever produced. And that's how I ended up trying to achieve that goal. I may or may not have achieved 100%, but I went in that direction, right? Claim your territories. I went, wrote books, won awards. Those are my territories. I went and built that. Cultivate your relationships. Even today, if I come back to India, within a week, I'll be hired in some of these top corporations. Why? Because I built those relationships over a 2.5 decade timeline. And then conserve your brand. There is a website which has my information. There are articles that are talking about me as a brand. I gave a TED talk, which is at 400,000 views. That's my brand. I will preserve that brand, because where I'm coming from is a position of strength. And my strength is to make a difference using my communication skills. So let me ask you today, what will be your strength? What is your number one strength that you will take out as a result of this conversation? So I'll pause here and I'll give it back to doctors, our hosts. And if you can take it from here, and we will, I want to challenge the boys and girls to ask questions and interact, so I can tell you more practical insights that how you can make a brand for yourself. I'll stop sharing so we can.
Yeah. Quite inspiring, Mr. Sunil. Nice listening to you for the last 35 minutes. So quite inspiring. Let me start off with a question. Of course, I do represent all my students' fraternity. Okay. Placement season is already on. And as you are aware, because of COVID pandemic, the opportunities seem to be very, very limited in the corporate world. Okay. That being the case, say for example, let me quote an example. A person or a student is interested in pursuing his career in finance. That is where his passion lies. Okay. So towards pursuing his passion in the finance field, he is looking for opportunities in finance. But because of the external environment which is prevailing right now, he may not be getting the right opportunities in finance. So probably as the days pass on, out of frustration, he sits for a job which is not his forte kind of. Okay, ultimately he ends up with that job. Okay, and now he is in a dilemma because one side, the external environment forces him to take up a job which is not his passion. The other side, he is not getting enough opportunities in the area where his passion lies. What can he do at this juncture?
Like I shared, 2-3 things, Doctor. So
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that this pandemic-related thing will just end, and for the sake of all these bright
Exactly.
engineers.
Exactly.
Let's say if the next 4-6 months we need, and again, the person's economic situation is very important. If
Yeah.
that person has a responsibility at home, I would say if he starts teaching also, I don't care. I mean, getting a job is more important.
Yeah.
But having said that, let's say that person wants to be very focusedly only in his area of finance.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can do stuff like teaching, teaching junior college, teaching high school, teaching, but at least they're in touch with the field. They are not moving away from the field. So that's one avenue. But I'm telling you, even in the pandemic, all these industry bodies are constantly doing events. They're constantly looking for volunteers to help. So if I were that boy or girl, I would actually, let's say CII has a chapter in Coimbatore, or FICCI has a chapter, or I really don't know the landscape of Coimbatore and your vicinity, but every finance professional in that area will be part of some industry bodies, like ICWA chapter or whatever. These young people should be actually plugged into that, and they should be running marketing roles. They should be running technical support roles. They should be like running everything, so that these big finance fellows just come and do those webinars, give gyan and go away. In the process of doing this, these young people will get to connect with them. They'll get to interact with them. They'll get to know their email IDs. They'll get to know their WhatsApp numbers. And with that network, as soon as any of these guys are hiring, the chances are these people whom they know on a first name basis will get the advantage. So when resources are low, this is my mantra, write down if you want. When resources are low, you should be more resourceful.
Very good.
Your resourcefulness is a function of your lack of resources. When you don't have anything, you become creative and you come up with all sorts of ideas and somehow land this job. Like I said, in Hyderabad, I did not have the luxury of buying new books, right? Each book would cost you 150 or 180 rupees or 200 rupees. I did not have money back in the day. But because I went to this club, all these wealthy fellows would easily share their books with me, and I used to just, read books from that were handed down to me. I mean, I could tell you stories, but the point is, if you're resourceful, the whole world will inspire to support you.
Sure. Good. Thank you. Over to the students, please.
Participants, you all have the access to ask questions. Unmute and you can ask questions.
Come on, students, I challenged you. You got to show that I connected with you.
Since you were talking about cricket, I'm reminded of Sunil Gavaskar. Sunil Gavaskar will have the starting trouble always. So my students are like Sunil Gavaskar. So
Sunil Gavaskar belonged to a 5-day test era. Now it's the T20 and T10
era.
hitting right from the word go.
That's right.
I'm sure all these youngsters are, like I told about my language issue, I told about networking. See, the ability for people to go and ask for help is a big need. When somebody reaches out to me, and I'm sure that's true of most people, when students reach out, they feel happy because it's a chance for them to share and pass on their experience and so on. So let's see.
Sir, good morning, sir. Myself, Lokesh from second MBA, sir.
Hi, Lokesh.
Sir, I have one question, sir. What are the controversy can rise when you are being unique, and how can we face that, sir?
So what are the challenges or any controversies you might face if you're unique or you try to find your own path, right? So eh, all the near and dear ones will first make fun of you because they don't like anybody who's trying to be different, right? In the area I lived, I'll be very honest with you. In the area I lived in one very sort of normal poor people type of colony, okay? And it was very close to a graveyard. It was where, daily laborers and poor families lived. So it was like a very sort of a slum type of an area. And from there, if somebody was going to an English medium school or trying to speak in English, they used to say, why are you behaving as if your father is an Englishman? Why are you behaving as if you were born in England? They make fun of you first. So be prepared for that. The second thing you should always do is when you're stretching for goals which are ambitious and thing, even your closest friends or near and dear ones will not necessarily share your dream and support you at that time. Only after success they'll say, yeah, this guy is our friend. But at the time, you should be prepared that it will be my mission, my goal, my drive, my hard work, my vision. I'll pay for this myself. If others make fun of me, that's fine too. Today, when I go back to India, many people are very happy with whatever success God has given me. But there are very few people who stood by me at that time and supported me and said, yeah, you can do it. In fact, there was one man who said, you're hardworking, your heart is in the right place. If you don't get success, I don't know who else will get success. So 10 people said negative things. One man had kind words. I held on to that kind words. Even with you, Lokesh, if you said, sir, give me some feedback, instead of giving you 5 areas where I should give you improvement, and I say, Lokesh, I appreciate you being the first guy to ask the question. There is a good chance that you will remember what I said as positive and then use that for future, right? So positive, inspiring, encouraging feedback is oxygen to the soul. So you should surround yourself with positive people, only willing to give you positive feedback and support you along the way. So be prepared for ridicule, hunt and find positive people who can help you along the journey. I think if you can get that going, you're at an early stage, you ask the right questions. So I want to appreciate you for being the first one to go. If you can show that kind of a drive and courage, sky is the limit.
Thank you, sir. Sir, can I have another one question, sir? Sir, how the content in social media will describe us, sir?
That's another topic. I'm glad you asked because I didn't spend too much time on social media. See, ever since the smartphones came, whenever I go to Hyderabad and talk to young students in India, I tell them, if the first thing you do in the morning is reach out and open your phone and start scrolling through your WhatsApp, your smartphone is smarter than you. So I keep telling young people, you should be smarter than your smartphone, right? If you're able to decide what you see and control the smartphone, you're not a slave to smartphone. The smartphone is not controlling you. So the only thing that will keep you in control of social media is not mindlessly going on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever channels you're doing, but actually saying, how is this phone or how are the tools helping me become a better leader, better student, better achiever, right? What happens is WhatsApp, same message, same joke, same forward, same good morning, comes in 20 different groups, right? But by the time you finish all that, 30 minutes has gone in WhatsApp. So you need to have, just like race horses, no? They put blinkers. so that they stay in the race, same lane, right? Usain Bolt, when he's running, no, he doesn't look at who's running in his neighboring lane, or he runs his race, he is focused on in his own lane. Like that, we should become so programmed to manage what you see on social media. Half the time, so I tell my son is also in junior college, and I tell my son, do you want to be on Netflix creating content, or do you want to be on Netflix watching content and Netflix is making money off you? Do you want to be consuming money and paying your time, or do you want to do something that others pay money and take that content and do it? So ultimately, whether you're a consumer or producer will make you rich. A consumer will never become rich because he's always consuming and paying money. But the producer of what others are consuming make money. That's the law of economics you study in MBA also. So do you want to be on the creation of the supply side, or do you want to be on the demand side, consuming the demand? Right? So, Lokesh, here's my question. Anytime you're on social media, you can just keep comparing others. What is social media built on? Social media is built on comparison. Oh, look at me, my brand new watch, my brand new t-shirt, my branded designer dress, or my branded bike, or whatever, right? So you're always showing off. It's only one part of it. But real life is not like that. Don't get sucked into social media where it is competition and comparison. You run your own race. You are unique. You have a unique challenge ahead of you. You pursue it. Get away from distractions. In fact, during every Lent season, my wife and I try to get off social media, because that's a time, 40 days, we are trying to fast. We also try to fast from our mental consumption habits, and we get away from Facebook. And once I quit Facebook, no, so much of peace of mind, because now then I'm not worried about who brought a new dress, who went to some fancy trip, who bought a new car. It doesn't really make a difference to me, right? Unless it's a close friend and you'll anyway meet them in real life. And in real life, when you meet friends, that's a different experience. But the point is, social media can be a big distraction if not managed properly.
Thank you, sir. Sir, can I have another one question, sir?
Now you need to ask your boss, Professor Nandi and Dr. AGV. I think.
Quickly, Lokesh. Quickly.
Sir, whether saying no or I have done some mistake to our superiors or our reporting authority will affect our brand image. Like that.
Yes, indeed. So one of the things is, let's say, again, it's what sort of a mistake is that? If it is some simple, innocuous, innocent type of a mistake, it's fine. It's a part of the learning curve. But if it is serious, then it will start affecting you. For example, in my work, I made some mistakes in the past. I complained about people in the past. That's not a good thing, because when you complain to somebody about somebody, it means that you're backstabbing that person, right? You go and escalate about a person. So what is the mistake? What type of mistake is it? Is it only affecting your image, or is it affecting others? Is it affecting a few people? Is it affecting their reputation? Depends on what exactly it is. So without getting into specifics, I can't answer that. But you have to make mistakes on your journey. If you think you'll get it right the first time, not do anything the first time. So I would encourage you to start doing things, make mistakes along the way. And once you get to a stage, you should just be comfortable building your presence. But if you didn't try anything, you'll not make mistakes. And without mistakes, you'll not make progress. So I would certainly hope that no matter what the mistakes are, the world is very forgiving if you're willing to say, hey, I'm trying this, I'm learning it, right? And so for right now, for example, I'm trying to create some content. And I've never done this. So I'm trying video, I'm trying audio, I'm trying. So the first efforts will be horrible, right? But slowly things will start getting better, because after a few learning curve, your quality of your output gets better. So that's what I would suggest. If you want to talk specifics, either write an email or something, and I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone?
So, good morning. Myself,
Please
Karthik.
come first. Yeah.
I'm from second MBA, sir. So, how to make someone feel who doesn't even know us, but we must make them feel that we are a brand. For example, an interviewer, we are a, we'll meet them first time. They hadn't even known about us, or they doesn't even know our full background other than that resume. But they must feel that we are a brand. How to do that? Whether it is possible.
So thank you, Karthik. It's a great question. There are two parts to it. Okay. You are saying, I'm just entering an interview room. I don't know anything about them. How to uh, make myself a brand in front of them, right? That's one. And the second thing is how, if I know a little bit about them. So there are two parts to it. What you do in the interview is one part, and what you do on your resume is one part. So I'll answer both. The resume should be so impressive and so reflective of you that when they see it, no, they should straight away say, I want to shortlist this guy and I want to talk to that person. So what does it mean? It means it has to be different in content and it has to be different in presentation. For example, obviously at MBA stage, you don't have much experience outside of work. So what is it that you can do? Your competition there is not some guy in some other city. Your competition is your own people, your own classmates, your own other in that area, right? So those are your competition. So identifying your competition and positioning yourself differently is the key element in the resume. So you can't have your standard resume there. Secondly, you need to highlight your strengths that will stand out. For example, if you were teaching something while you were still in college, let's say you went and served in a school and taught and gave tuitions to underprivileged kids or something, that will stand out, right? If you did something and you earned money while you were doing that, that is something that will stand out, because all the other students are just showing their academics, they're showing their marks, they're showing what they did in college. You're trying to show something in addition to what you're already doing and trying to build distinction in your resume. So that's one element. So that's how you would build. The way I'll tell you how I built my resume. I'm glad you asked this question. Remember, I told you I went to Italy in competition with 600 people, only 5 seats, only of which 3 girls and 2 boys. So already in that quota of 5 people who are going to Italy, there are ladies who are taking away a few seats, which means there were 2 or 3 seats that I was competing for with men. So I knew I was competing with men, but I had to be different in my application. So when the applications were written, everybody wrote, oh, I want to be a good cultural or ambassador for India. I know Indian culture. I'm a proud Indian. My Telugu language is this. My Indian Hyderabad culture is this. Everybody was writing essays about it. So you know how I built a brand in my application? You'll be happy to hear this. I wrote a full 12-line poem about what I'll be if selected in Italy. Mine must have been the only poem in the entire 600 applications. So straight away, my application stood out, right? So that's how you build the application part. In the interview, the way you stand out is you should have more knowledge about the company that you are getting interviewed by, so that you use it as part of your conversation. You should have done research about which company is coming. What are their annual numbers? How are they? Are they growing over the last 3-4 years? Any big announcements that they did recently? If you have all this information, no, sir, I read about this thing that happened in your company, and then you start having conversation. Instead of just responding to their questions, you are also conversing with them and trying to tell them that you'll be interviewing 20 people, but I'll be the smartest guy who has done a little research about you. And even better, if you know the people who are coming, find out about them. What do they do? Are they in the media? Did they anything come out of it? Many of them are really big guys because they're coming to interview. They have a LinkedIn profile. They have some stories that you can use to your advantage. I'm telling you, I have done some outstanding work for my company just doing a little bit of research about kind of people I'm meeting. And everybody likes to be complimented for the work that they've done. Right? So suppose I'm meeting some big shot banker along with my boss. I'll do research about that banker that we are meeting, so that even when I'm sitting next to my boss, like one assistant, whenever I get a chance, I'll say, I read about you, and this is something that caught my attention. Great to meet you. And it makes them feel elevated. It boosts their ego. They look at me and say, this boy did his homework, right? That's the impression you want to give at the interview. So first you build a resume that is better than your competing students. And then secondly, you also learn more about the companies that are coming so that you use it in the interview to score points.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. I'm
Hey,
Sujit from first MBA, sir. Sir, why audience are sometimes skeptical to interact in a session like this, sir?
It's a good question. You should tell me, why did you take so long? Why did you go ahead of Lokesh?
Why did you wait so long?
Yeah. No, but Sujit, I'm glad you asked that question, because public speaking or speaking in front of others is a big fear many people have. And if you've been in Toastmaster circles, they tell you that the number one fear people have is the fear of public speaking.
Yeah.
Meaning, fear of death comes number 3. Fear of snakes is number 2. Fear of public speaking, fear of snakes, and then fear of death. So what happens is in American and other cultures, where some people have to stand up and say things about the person who departed and died, people would rather be in the coffin, be dead, than stand up in front of the eulogy and give a eulogy. So public speaking puts pressure on everybody, and more so if there are youngsters and if there are young ladies. What will those girls think? What will those boys think? Girls tend to be a lot more shy. So I quite understand. But the ones who stand out, for example, now I know it's you, Sujit. Now I know Karthik. Now I know Lokesh. So that's how you make a differentiation, right? Ones who take the courage and have a conversation with the speaker. All the events I've attended, wherever I get a chance, I stand up and make a speech. Why? Because after the event, if I go and shake hands with that person, there's a good chance that man will meet me. They'll give me his business card. I'll give them my business card. We'll make a connection. And hopefully we stay in touch, and you never know where it'll lead, right? So in networking, there is a thing called you dig a well for water before you feel thirsty. I'll repeat that. You don't start digging a well when you're thirsty, right? You dig a well long before you need it. So that's how you build connections. You never know where that person you'll come in contact with, and that connection might come alive. So you always stand up, you always connect, you speak in events like this. Next time somebody comes to your corporate connect, you should not, everybody should ask them questions, because they will also be speaking to many other MBA colleges, right? And they should go back with the feeling, man, this DJ guys, I spoke for 35 minutes, but Q&A was for 35 minutes. That's the feeling they should get, right? That's how you build a brand.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir. I'm V. Devinandi, first year MBA. So my question is, give some insights about podcasts, sir.
Give some insights about?
Podcast.
I have no idea what is it. Can you explain a little more?
I think she's asking about podcasting. Sir.
Oh, podcasting. Okay. All right. That's a great question. In social media, everybody is now going into video and podcasting. Everybody. Whether, let's say, suppose you have a unique gift of mehendi, art, something, right? You can just have a podcasting channel. And so for people, video is sometimes very intimidating, and they say, no, I don't have a screen presence. I don't have the personality to be on screen. Podcasting is the best way to go. And often it is, you can do it in your own language if you want. You can do it mix and match. See, this cricketer Ravichandran Ashwin, no, was telling us that in the middle of the pandemic, started a YouTube channel where he started
Okay.
getting people on and starting to interview him. Obviously, because he's such a big figure, when he interviews people, they come and they have a good conversation. But look at him. I mean, the pandemic has given him an opportunity to do something which he would have never tried, right? So podcasting is very helpful if you want to just do audio only. But because it's also easy, everybody is also doing podcasts.
Yeah.
So you need to also be able to find a topic and find a space where you are unique, and you can, again, that branding comes into play. Branding is getting interest is one part, and the interest of people also should match. Just because you are interested in it doesn't mean others are interested. So you keep doing. So Winston Churchill, the famous British Prime Minister, said, a leader who thinks he's a leader but has no followers is merely going for a walk, right? So let's say you start a podcasting channel and you don't have enough followers or something, then you're just talking to yourself. So you need to find a topic which also relates to others and build that podcasting channel. And as you start doing it, people start sharing, people start putting it on WhatsApp, and then suddenly you have a voice of your own. And that's a very important thing, finding your voice and amplifying your voice. I'm glad you asked this question. So find out one skill that you're the best in, right? One talent that you have, which nobody else has. In my case, it will be public speaking, or in my case, it will be how to tell stories. In my case, how to be a good writer. Some of the corporate skills that I have. And if I build a podcasting channel, those are some of the things that I would do.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, sir. I'm Sindhura from First MBA. And my question is, how Toastmaster Club can influence us in our communication skills?
Great question, Sindhura. I benefited a lot from Toastmasters, and every place I went, I always tell people the most effective, cheapest leadership course is in Toastmasters. Even if you go to Harvard University and crores of rupees and lakhs of rupees, the impact of Harvard, you'll get a stamp saying that he's graduated from Harvard. But the knowledge that you receive tends to get obsolete, or it gets back in your mind somewhere else. Toastmasters is an ever sharp tool that you can go after week, month after month, and continue to harness your public speaking skills. Now, of course, with all the social distancing, many clubs have moved online, but I can't tell you, I finished my highest achievement called the Distinguished Toastmaster. I'm very active even today, and as soon as they open up, I'll go back. But it made a big difference to me in my public speaking. Particularly if you guys want to go into marketing, HR, you will do well. I mean, finance also, because every business professional has to stand up and make presentations.
Yeah.
Toastmasters will make a big difference for you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sindhu.
Participants, you can unmute and ask questions.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible, sir.
Yes, Nambi.
So good morning, sir. I am Dr. Nambi, who is working with DJ Academy. First of all, I would like to thank you for the great session, inspiring for the students. Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, Dr. Nambi. You're audible.
I just have a question for you. It's about the pitfall. People are talking about the personal branding. How do you avoid overselling? When you personally brand about yourself, there should be a correlation between what you are and in fact what you claim that you are. And often I see people who say that, take it until you make it. So how do you avoid it? Can you please enlighten me about it?
It's a great question, Dr. Nambi. See, this fake it till you make it is a very American approach. I lived in India for the first half of my life, and in the last 15 years, I'm now in the United States. Whenever you go into a room, let's say with Americans, Indians, and others, you will clearly see that the first who start talking are the Americans. They are by nature very confident, very articulate. They just break the ice. By culture, they are always outgoing. For the most part, they're comfortable breaking the conversation. We Indians are somewhere in the middle. We are comfortable holding our space and be silent, and we are also comfortable when we get a chance to talk. But in front of the non-Indians, we are not comfortable. And I talk about even my own company and my engineers when they come to various clients. The clients love our guys for their technical work, but they say they wish our guys spoke more often. Our communication skills are not. So there's a cultural element here, in my view, Dr. Nandi, that Tami, that your cultural. In India, we'll say when a child is talking, we'll say, "Hey, don't show off, da," or "Don't brag," right? Even if the child is genuinely very good at. So culturally, we are not comfortable with those who are very natural in talking about their skills. How many people in our culture are comfortable saying, "Hey, this is my strength. I can do this extremely well"? Of course, Kangana Ranaut is. She says, "I can act better than Tom Cruise. I can act better than Meryl Streep and whatever." But I mean, barring that, that's narcissism there. But to be able to say, "This is my strength. I can do this well," doesn't have to be overselling. Your LinkedIn resume or your bio, you can't sell things that you cannot claim. For example, if I say I'm the best public speaker in the world, and my company gives me an opportunity and says, "Sunil, I want you to go and introduce this speaker," and I say, "Sorry, sir, I am not feeling well. I have a sore throat." Every time I give excuses, people will say, "You claim something and you're not able to sustain what you claim." So backing up your claims is very important in whatever you claim. Coming to selling, our selling is very desperate only when we are in our early stages of our career. Fresh out of MBA, you really need a job, you really need a breakthrough. That's the tough time. But once you have some work experience, let's say of 6 months or 1 year, then onwards, it's your work experience that carries you. And nobody will now ask me, "Oh, you graduated from Usmania University, you only have 78%. Nobody will ask me that. Now they are judging me based on my track record, my career, my awards, my work, my LinkedIn resume, my impact that I've made everywhere, what my former bosses say about me. So till you get track record, your selling is needed. Some bit of pushing is needed. But once you get some experience, you don't have to sell. Afterwards, your brand takes over.
Thank you, sir.
Students, you can come in. You can unmute and come in.
Hello, sir. I'm not a student. I'm a friend of Sunil. I'm very happy to be here.
He's my guru, actually.
Welcome, sir.
I will ask Sunil a question and a comment that can help the students. He's a very, very cool guy, and I will learn a lot from him. Sunil, can you tell the students maybe touch on the topic of storytelling as regard to selling a brand or communication? Because I work in IT for the last 28 years. I'm still in IT. I'm transitioning to become a coach. The one thing that companies are talking about is more than communication. They're saying you have to tell a story. That's all I hear. So if you can, share your.
So Dr. AGV and Dr. Nandi, my dear friend, I called him because he's somebody who's coaching me on a few things. I said, "Hey, I'm giving this lecture. If your time permits, do come in." And very gracious of him, come in. So you found another speaker as well that you can invite some other time. Great guy, very generous, probably more generous than me. So
I have taken a note.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
He lived in the States. He worked in the States. He works for this big bank called Morgan Stanley. So great guy. The question he asked is about storytelling. And who can tell me what was my opening story when I started my session? Anyone? Remember, I started with a story. All right. So if you guys are on mute, that's fine. I spoke about how this event came about. I started saying I connected with Dr. Nandi. Then he introduced me to Dr. AGV. It started retelling of an anecdote, right? Then when we moved into branding, I said, why did I do my MBA? There was a story there, right? I did this because I fell in love with this young lady, and she kind of changed my life, right? So and how I built my skills, I told a few stories. Even if you don't remember anything from the slides, you remember that these stories made a difference to me. And that's the power of story. We started when we are children. We enjoy this when we are in business. And then when even long after that, when somebody asks you, can you tell me something? You immediately tell a story to make that point. So storytelling is very important. It is becoming more and more critical for business successes. In the world of business, instead of telling boring stories on PPT and Excel, we can use that data and we can use that to tell a powerful story. Case studies are actually stories, right? If you want to advertise what a great school DJ Academy of Managerial Excellence is, don't tell them why you're great, right? Just say X number of my students are placed here, and you tell them stories of success. So every sphere or every field you look at, you'll have to come back to stories. You cannot. So Khalil Gibran, one of my favorite writers, says, storytelling is as essential as food and water. Our human hearts desire for stories. And, we Indians love movies, right? Why is movie industry so powerful? It's the same old story. Boy meets girl, they have trouble, and hero goes, resolves the problem. Towards the end, they get married and they live happily ever after. I mean, that story formula hasn't changed. I mean, in between, some guys decided to change the story. The boy dies or the girl dies. But, we've seen that story. No matter how tough you are, you talk to any director, you'll have to come back to that story template. The treatment of the story varies, but the template doesn't change, right? So it's all about stories. And your personal branding is actually a story. When an interviewer asks you a question, you tell him, sir, I got 98%. That's why I'm passionate. No, you don't say that. You say, sir, my dad encouraged me to do this. That's why. And then you bring in a story. And those are the ones that make an impact on the interviewers. And you get into better opportunities. Thank you, Shailesh.
Okay. If there are no questions, shall we wrap it up, Mr. Sunil?
I'm ready, sir. So I just want to invite all these boys and girls and say thank you. I just want you to know that I'm a big fan of boys and girls from colleges like yours, because I'm also from such a college.
Yeah.
And, I'm rooting for you. I believe many of you will go on to do great stuff.
Yeah.
But find your purpose, find your brand, and do us proud. Do your college proud. Do your teaching staff proud. Do your parents proud. And I can wish anything but much blessing and success and safety during the tough times. Stay safe and get successful. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sunil. And of course, you spared your Friday night for us. Okay. So thanks a lot. And formally, we can welcome our student to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sunil sir. It was wonderful listening to you. I remembered all my sales days when you said storytelling. I have survived, and I have been successful with telling stories to my customers as well as to my bosses, but not to my current boss. It was for all my previous bosses. So, with that note, let me invite Lokeshwaran, our final year MBA student, to propose a formal vote of thanks.
From the session, we are able to learn how to frame ourselves as a thoughtful leader. Strength into investment is equal to strength. What people must want most, like that, and how we want to find our sweet spot, branding, personality process, etc. I thank Mr. Sunil Robert, author and leadership coach, head of marketing, product and platforms, Tata Consultancy Service, California, US, for providing his valuable insights on today's corporate connect topic, personal branding is in unique manner. And I once again thank you, sir, for spending your valuable time with us. I also thank our beloved director, Dr. AGV Narayanan, Chief Executive Capital Sendil Kumar, and faculty members and students of DJEME. And I also extend my heartfelt thanks to students and faculty members of other institutions. And I also thank the corporate executives from various organizations for their presence in today's Corporate Connect program. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Mr. Sunil, have a great weekend ahead. We wish you very, very all the best and God bless you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.
Yeah. Mr. Sailesh, thank you very much for having joined us. I have sent a LinkedIn request to you. Looking forward to seeing you with us sooner.
Pleasure, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.